Hello, everybody. This is Carrie Getz, author of Jumpstart Your Career in Data Centers. Welcome back to another edition of this podcast series. Today, we are here with Fabiola with Start Campus. Introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you do.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you for having me. I'm Fabiola Bordino from Start Campus. I'm head of sustainability and marketing and communications for Start Campus. We are a company that builds, designs, and operates data centers in Sines, Portugal.
So, Portugal is an interesting location, also one of my very favorite foodie destinations. I promise y'all have the best food. Um, I really enjoy it over there. Beautiful country. But let's talk about why Portugal, why that particular area was a good area for this.
Well, firstly, food, absolutely. Um, after that, we actually started looking at a bunch of different places and sites in Europe. Our CEO, Afonso Salima, had this idea. He came from investment banking, renewable energy infrastructure, and he kind of looked at the gap of with COVID and all, the need of more data centers. Data is spiking, is growing exponentially. Everyone's on Teams, on Zooms, on new platforms. We are all over social media. And then he looked at another trend, which was the energy transition. And from energy transition, I mean that power stations that are not green are being decommissioned and nuclear plants. Those are mission critical infrastructure. So he kind of looked at it and said, why wouldn't you repurpose an infrastructure that is so good, that is built to be mission critical, and to do a data center on it? Plus, they do have the cooling side of it. Why don't we repurpose that? So we looked at more than 100 sites in Europe, and we ended up between 12 different sites. And Portugal kind of won the race because a couple of things. One of them is location. So if you might think that Portugal is at the end of or the tip of Europe, but it's actually, I think, the other way around. It's actually the door to Europe. It's your door from Africa, it's your door from South America, it's your door from North America. It's the way to come into Europe in terms of connectivity. It's a great place with ocean water. It's very secure and stable in terms of country. Plus, you have one thing that is brilliant in Portugal and Spain, which is a lot of renewable power, which is what you definitely want when you're building such a big electric intensive infrastructure. So what we do in in Star Campus is we look at the ecosystem, right? So you have to look at the power that you're going to be consuming, and so you need to be sure that you can have 100% and 24/7 renewable power, which we're going to have because we're going to do our own solar plants. And at night, we're going to have batteries plus wind and PPAs. The other point that is very interesting is the cooling. And on the cooling side, in Portugal and Sines specifically, we are next to an old coal power station that has been decommissioned, and we are going to be using the infrastructure. So basically, we're reusing the entire infrastructure that have been live for 45 years. We're not reinventing the wheel. And we use the ocean water, Atlantic, which, in case you don't know, it's freezing.
I don't
To
want to swim in it.
Well, let me tell you, I surf and it's very cold. Um, and so basically, we use the ocean water to cool the data halls, but we don't consume the water. So it's actually a permutation of heat. And then we reject the water 2 degrees warmer than what we collected. And because this is an industrial site, there's a bunch of other industries next to us. We have a deep port, and next to the deep port, but next to us, we have an LNG plant. And what they actually do the opposite. They go and get the ocean water to warm up the gas and transform it from liquid to gas, and then they reject the water minus 10 degrees. This is brilliant for us. It's wastewater that we can go and get a huge efficiency. So actually, the way I usually say it is the waste from a couple of industries is actually gold for us. That's how we cool our data hall. So actually, Portugal was kind of the winner on all the points, and it makes the entire ecosystem more sustainable. We don't consume water. We can have 100% of green energy, and it's just brilliant.
So, talk a little bit about the four pillars of sustainability as you guys see it.
So, thank you. It's a great question. The four pillars of sustainability for me, they're the planet, and the planet is not only just the green, but ultimately is everything that you do from building, uh, the carbon that you need to understand how you're building and try to mitigate it before you're building and getting greener materials, what you do with the carbon and carbon sinking, not just offsetting, but doing your own carbon sinks within the ecosystem and the region. Then you have the communities. This is all brilliant. You can have a great project, but the project is within a community and the community impacts the project as well. So you need to look at the entire spectrum of how you can give something back to the community and how the community can help you improve and be better at them in the project. Then you have the industry. Industry is where, although we're a small company and we just started off, we're a startup, I think what we can bring to the industry is a new way of thinking. We think outside the box in terms of sustainability, in terms of communities. We want to share that with the industry and push supply chain to look at new ways of building greener concrete, for example. Just push everyone and put the standards and the bar higher and higher as we go. And then obviously you have the company, right? So the entire sustainability for the company and for the people that are working with you. Those are my four pillars.
Talk a little bit about the community involvement and how we have areas over here in the US where there's so many data centers. They're getting that NIMBY complex, not in my backyard, go build it somewhere else kind of thing. Talk a little bit about your community involvement and how you were able to tie your community into what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant. We do have a lot of, not on my backyard, not on data centers, but on renewable energy in Portugal as well. And ultimately, is because you have two things. One is projects go into a region and they don't tell anything to anyone until the project is built, and they don't bring anything to the community. And then, second, is the location of the projects. You need to make sure, especially on data centers, you need to make sure that you're not competing with power, land, or water that is for human consume for humans, right? You need to go to a place that we don't need it. It's not needed for commercials, or it's not needed for drinking water. What we've done in the community is we started talking to the entire community before we announced the project. So 2 years ago, or more than 2 years ago, actually, we talked to more than 33 associations. And basically, what we said is, okay, we're building a data center. A lot of them didn't know what a data center was or what it actually did. So we explained the project, we told them the impact, and we asked them, what do you expect from us? What would you like us to bring to the region? And how can we help you? And everyone has their own agenda. We ended up understanding that everyone wants something, that you will never be able to please everyone. It's just not possible. So what we've done is we looked at the market, see best practices, and we ended up doing a couple of things. One of them was the Gamma platform. and the Gamma platform is a platform where we have an investment money to invest on projects for the region. So anyone in the world can apply, but the projects need to impact the region. So actually, we have a project from Mexico, and we had 20 projects that applied. And the idea is we help the projects from an idea to be actually something. Financial models, O&Ms, just think about the strategy, the innovation. We help the idea become a real thing. And then we have an innovation day where it's open to the entire community. And ultimately, what we do is kind of like a Shark Tank version. They go in, they do their pitch, they pitch their project. There's a couple of people that ask questions, and then the community votes for their favorite project. So you have a window where the community can vote via digitally, or the people that are not digital, they can vote via SMS, and they vote for their favorite project. In this way, we fund the projects that people want, the community want. And we do this until, so we would fund 90% of the project that is in first place, and we cascade down until we run out of funds. But this way, we know and we are sure that we gave back to the community what they wanted. And who are we to say or to give something to the community if we don't live there? We are operating there, but we're not there every day. We don't know the needs. That's one version. But obviously, we have our own ideas, and we know where we want to impact. And one of them is in education. Education is really important. Data centers is fairly new industry. There's not a lot of people with the right skills. Portugal is one of the biggest, and apologies for the way I'm going to say it, but factory of engineers. But they all go away. Ultimately, they all move away because there's not enough jobs in Portugal. Technology and techie. If we help them and if we give them the right tools to get out of school and go into a data center and have that extra skilling process and training for the data center world, for the cooling, for the renewables, they would stay here. And this goes for universities. We're doing this with technology schools as well in the region. And we're doing this together with other universities across Europe. So we're building a data center excellency center. Basically, what it is 9 different universities and specialized schools who have different labs. So you would have in Belgium the specific lab for cooling, and the renewable lab is in Norway. And then the kids, well, I call them kids, but they're like in their 20s. They do exchange and they go for a couple of weeks up to a couple of months. For them, it's brilliant because they get to be with other people, different worlds, different countries. They do internships in data center companies. It's actually brilliant. They love the experience. They are in different countries, and for us, it's really good because we are producing the new generation of people who are going to work in the data center. So we have a little bit of everything, and for me, education is really important because you're building the next people who are going to be running this. So you want them to have sustainability on the back of their minds all the time, right?
Yeah, and I think too, there's a million ways to learn. And I think certainly going to other countries, seeing how they do things, as opposed to kind of the myopic view you get if you just sit in one spot, really starts bringing some of that innovation about, because you give them exposure to what some of the opportunities are for learning, or opportunities that we have to make things better, especially when it comes to sustainability and land use for lithium is a good one. What can we do that's a better product for batteries than something that tears up that much earth? Or what can we do with that earth to make that a better process? And I think when you start exposing people to all sides of the equation, not this is really good, you're going to use it, and we'll worry about the after side effects later, you kind of you stifle some of that innovation that comes about. You stifle some of that, take some young mind, whether they're in college or it's informal, and they see something that just really turns them on and very much excites them. Now they have something they can go search out and they can go figure out how to do and what to do and make those things better. So I definitely think that's a great thing. Talking about how Portugal is the key to Europe. So there's a lot of subsea cables that come in that area too, correct?
Yeah. I see Portugal and especially seen as the new Atlantic hub. You do close a couple of rings. So there's first it's on the ocean. So there's a couple of um subsea cables that land in Sines. One is all the way from the Mediterranean. It's the Medusa that closes actually connects to Asia. Then you have the entire Africa. So basically, Africa is not really a continent where you would like to have your data or host your data or store your data. Ultimately, what tends to happen is the data moves into Europe because it's a safer place. And Portugal is right there. It's the first country from the Atlantic. Um, then you have the first cable connecting South America to, well, any other continent that is not North America. That one lands in Sines as well. So that closes up that really great ring. And you have five different ways to cross the pond, as I call it, and usually all the rings are on the North Sea. So they go from the UK, Ireland, all the way to North America. Um, there's no other redundancy routes. There's no route through the middle that actually promotes the closing the ring. And with the geopolitical situation that you have in Europe right now, you definitely need to start thinking about different routes. And Sinus is just right there. It's the new market to go into Europe. And it's still not congested. So it's not an Ireland that doesn't have enough power to have all the data centers or a Marseille. It's a new market.
So you talked a little bit a while ago about how you guys were taking the cold ocean water from your neighbor. How did those conversations come about? Because I think there's a lot of opportunity in this industry where we can pair with other industries and do cool things. We have a data center here at Syracuse University, for instance, and years ago, somebody had the foresight to use the rejected heat to heat their swimming pool. So
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how that process went with the community. How did you guys sort out that you could get cold water from your neighbor?
Well, it's all about communication, Karen. It's people, for some reason that I don't understand, tend to work in silos. And they think about me and my belly button and my work. Rather than look outside, look at your neighbor, look at what everyone else is doing. What we can get, we're stronger. We're stronger together than we. There's an expression that I'm missing, but I think it's like something like
We're stronger together than we are apart.
thank you. That's it. That's exactly it. And in the industry, is exactly the same. People tend to uh, work just for them, and okay, I do this. That is absolutely nothing to do with LNG. Why would I even look at them? But if you think about it, and you go and communicate with everyone in the community and the government, we just said we want to be as sustainable as we can. We don't want to consume water. We're going to go to the ocean to do this. And someone was like, okay, you know what? Your neighbor, like 1 kilometer from you, is doing exactly the opposite. If you think outside the box, we were like, okay, why shouldn't we go get that water that is colder And for us, it's a massive efficiency. It's just thinking outside the water. When we approach them, they seem surprised, but ultimately they look outside the box as well and think, okay, this is good for the entire planet and for the industry, right? So you have those two pillars. And in the same way that we're getting the colder water, we're thinking about what can we do with the warmer water. I haven't thought about heating up the swimming pool, but that's a brilliant idea. I will put that on the table. But another thing that you can do for fish farms, it's really good for seagrass, which is carbon sinks, for desalinization. There's a bunch of things you can do with warmer ocean water. And we just need to start thinking about the whole picture and have a little bit more a helicopter view of where your area of impact is. Not only your project, your company, but how can you actually be better and work better? Because if you promote efficiency, it's better for you too. So it's a win-win. And people sometimes forget to think about that.
Yeah,
Again,
I think some
communication.
yeah, I think some of the first sustainability projects that came out really got their buy-in because it was energy savings. Honestly, it had nothing to do with sustainability. That was a happy byproduct, but that was not the initial reason. It's what can we do to lower the power bill? And oh, by the way, now that the power bill's lower, good for us. But this feels pretty good. Can we do a little more? And nobody, I think, has really done it better than Holland. Their whole cradle to cradle and simple things like putting plants on the side of concrete to absorb the CO2 that comes off the concrete. I mean, some of these are just very, very simple things that occur because somebody had a fire and somebody had an idea in their mind and they thought to bring in people around them that maybe had different levels of expertise to make that come to fruition.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes is you just the answer is somewhere out there. You just need to go and look for it and talk to the right persons. And the right person can even be your kid. They have an amazing perspective of life, a simplistic perspective of life. And sometimes they can solve problems just like that because they give you the simplest answer, which is, for example, the carbon sinks, which is planting trees and bushes that actually absorb a lot of carbon. And we were talking about the plants need carbon, you emit carbon, win-win, right? And that's super simple. Why do we tend to overcomplicate things that maybe don't need to? Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's a barrier to the industry too for a lot of people is that overcomplication of things. If we just simple it down, we can include so many more people in the same conversation. And I know we were talking earlier about how you guys started this project where you have school children write scientists.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the projects that I love the best, well, I love everything that has to do with education and innovation. One of the projects is school kids writing letters, well, new version of letters, which is emails, obviously, to scientists. And that does a bunch of things. One, it demystifies, I think, um,
Demystifies, yeah.
the idea that science is like for really smart people and it's super hard to get in. It's not. It's simple and it gives the perspective for the scientists as well to simplify things because kids have brilliant ideas and they ask the right questions, which I think it's the most important thing. So basically what you have on this project, and it's for the region, but it's super easy to scale up. You can do this nationally or internationally, really. It's just a open door, a channel of communication between kids and scientists, which it's a win-win because kids can think about science and technology in a different way that sometimes is perceived as the really unachievable, which is not. So that's one of my favorite projects. Yes, absolutely, Carrie.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, my grandfather told me years ago, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know who to ask what you don't know. And
Exactly.
then that broadens your circle. But in this industry, we have, to your point earlier, because I think we grew so fast, budgets got siloed, so people got siloed, and their expertise got siloed, when really, when you open that up to a whole ecosystem conversation where you have everybody involved, that conversation becomes different, and people are being held accountable for things that they don't even know exist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think again, it all comes down to communication. One of the things that we have here at Start is we do sessions of brainstorms with everyone, right? From the person with marketing to the don't take this wrong, the nerdy of engineer of
I'm a
cooling.
nerd. It's good.
Uh, it's brilliant. They have such different perspective of the same subject, and the questions are just bubbling, right? And the truth is, when you bounce out of ideas, that's where you get the best product and the best outcome. And even for someone who knows nothing about the subject, is really, really good. Um, it's all about communication and opening and having your mindset. It's mindset as well, right? It's thinking that you can do it. Everyone can do it. You just need to put your mind to it.
Sure. And I think that stifles a lot of people because they feel like they can't get into this industry until they have a 4-year degree. And there's millions of jobs that really, quite frankly, don't require a degree. But there's also skilled trades. There's all kinds of opportunities to participate, and every opinion matters. And honestly, that's where innovation happens. It's not one guy that learned something out of a book. It's one guy that caught or girl that it is National Women's Day. I just Yeah, I was raised in the Midwest. Everything is you guys, and it means everybody, or in the South, y'all, and that means everybody. But you take one person that catches on to a subject, maybe when they're young, and they kind of think about it for a while. Maybe it's a child whose parent was sick, and so now they're thinking about ways to cure an illness without even a medical degree. They're just thinking of things that could help, and they start doing research and they start learning in different manners. I think if we force everybody through a singular college route with a singular mindset, we're engineering out a lot of that diversity of thought, and we're engineering out a lot of that innovation that would happen if we just said, hey, here's a problem, here's some tools to solve it, surprise me. Because
Yeah,
people will come back and surprise you every single time.
I couldn't agree more. And the truth is, it's not that you need a degree, you need training. And you need training at the right time in life. Because you can have all the training and you want, but if your mind is not there, it doesn't suit you, right? It doesn't do anything. If if you're working and learning and you actually thought you always wanted to be, I don't know, an electrical engineer, but you start working and you see that mechanical is way more your thing, you have that possibility. You're not locked into a degree, but you can do a speciality. And one of the things that I think is super important is to have a support and ask around and test and do internships, because sometimes you think that I wanted to do investment banking. Like, God, I'm so happy I haven't done that. I would be miserable. And right now I'm doing something that I thought it would be really nice, but it only happens in the movies. Sustainability, like 20 years ago, that didn't exist. I did an internship in India back in the time, and it was brilliant, but it didn't apply in Europe, right? You can get a job anywhere in sustainability, and now I'm doing it, and 20 years later, it is possible. You just need to, you know your goal, you know where you want to go, you go for it. And you surround yourself with the right people, you ask around, you get mentors. Just don't quit. Just go for it.
Yeah, honestly, it scares me to think of the amount of brilliant ideas that have just withered away in somebody's brain that
Mhm.
could be something totally and absolutely amazing today with the right encouragement.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes people tend to be negative because it's hard. Hard is a no, right? And usually, and parents do this a lot with kids. And I'm no different. But kids sometimes like, Mom, I had this brilliant idea, and it's like tearing the house apart and putting it together again. It's a terrible idea for a mom, but it's brilliant for them because they're reconnecting the wires, everything, and they're learning. And sometimes we need to let kids learn or people try ideas. Maybe you think they're going to fail. Maybe they will fail. They'll probably fail 70% of the time. That will teach them something.
The
And
best lessons come from failure.
exactly. And at the fifth time or the sixth time or whatever that is, they're going to get it right. And they're just not going to get it right. They're going to ace it. That's what you want.
Yeah, and this is a very risk averse industry as a whole, but I
Mhm.
think we're
Yeah,
starting to see, I think we're turning the corner on some things, at least from a test and development perspective, where we're allowing more of that fail until you succeed. Because honestly, that's where the best mistakes are learned. And you want somebody to fail in a not live environment rather than a live environment. So let him play over
absolutely.
there, let him sort it out, let him try it and see if it works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. You need to let people test, and you can have one of the things that we have in the Star Campus is test beds. And it's like, you want to go and test your idea, go ahead. You have this safe place and it works, it works. If it doesn't work, well, try to
No
understand
harm.
why.
Yeah.
Like, lessons learned. Tell everyone in the team why it didn't work. Do the post mortem of the project and let's not do the same mistake again and learn from that. Good. It's always good. It's a good experience.
Well, and that's look at this. That's how science works anyway, right?
Yeah.
Science is continuous trial and error. We think it works, it doesn't work. If you look at things that were scientifically accepted 20, 30 years ago, like smoking is good for you. That's a
Yeah.
great example,
Right.
right? Back in my day, smoking was good for you, and they encouraged people to smoke because it would calm your nerves. It was good if you were pregnant. It was good for all these things, only to find out years later, that was not really great advice. And so I think you have to have that continuous improvement cycle and that continuous rework cycle to make some of that stuff work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's what's most important is you always need to be learning something. That's how you have fun, right? If you just sit down and type the same thing and not learn, it's not fun. And the data center industry is fairly new, right? So you always at the forefront of everything because everything is changing so fast. The industry is moving so fast. Sustainability, the same thing. That's pretty cool to be in an industry that is still fairly young. It's still a kid. Imagine like 20 years what the data center world would be.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in this industry for, well, since its infancy, really. And the changes I've seen throughout my career are pretty crazy for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Well, we are running close to our time. So, parting words of wisdom. If you wanted to tell other young women, maybe kids that are thinking about sustainability, what would you tell people leaving this podcast today?
That is a very good question, Carrie. I think I would tell them it's a bit of a cliche, but just don't quit. If you have an idea, just go for it. Surround yourself with the right people, the right encouragement. Research. Nothing comes easy. If it's easy, uh, rethink
Everybody.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Rethink it. Rethink it. Um, you learn from every single experience. Even when you fall down, you get up, you shake it, and you keep going. This industry is a very manly industry, but the truth is, for the small amount of time I've been in data centers, is changing. There's a lot more women. There's brilliant women in the industry, and the truth is, women bring something new to the market, and women in tech is pretty awesome.
I think so too. I think so too. Which is why I've been in this industry for this long. It's not because I hated it, for sure. Well, I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you listening, please check out the book. It's very plain speak. We hope you enjoy it. And for the rest of you, we hope to have you on another edition of this podcast series. Thanks for listening.